Hello folks, Brian Manzella. Going to try to clear up a couple of terms that I and my other compadres learning about the golf swing use all the time. Some of them I've come up with, some of them are just derivatives of terms we've gotten from the scientists. The first one, good place to start, handle dragging. So we're talking about this handle. I used to use the terminology or the idea to teach handle dragging when I actually taught it. Thought it was a good idea, is you would have this wet mop and you'd flop the wet mop on a curved, one of those blue backyard water slides, and you would drag it down, constant pressure all the way through impact. You can see what kind of bizarro world position you might get in right there. Not very conducive to really high level golf. You could also have handle pushing. Would be hard to do it on a full shot, but I've seen some people with the idea that you could just push the whole club through. Okay, and then the other term that you hear all the time, from us at least, is normal or going normal. So the force that you're putting on the club, okay, more or less in a good golf swing, is along the shaft early, and it keeps bending inward, and eventually it is normal or 90 degrees to the club head arc around the ball. And I termed it going normal because you don't want to do it. You don't want to change that to normal force halfway down, right? There's a certain spot in the golf swing, there's enough momentum in the club head, and you've, another term, tumbled the club head on the other side of you. That's just beta torque. Nobody's ever going to know what beta, alpha, and gamma is unless they really study either Dr. Nesbitt's work or follow us around on the internet, right? So tumble just means you're throwing the club on the other side of your hands, okay? So that beta torque, once that club gets on the other side of the hands, and you can do that mid-downswing, that's when you have a chance to go, meaning start going normal. Now, you're really, in effect, going normal the whole swing. You're bending that hand path the whole swing. So, you know, if you wanted to pose going normal down here in this bottom phase, a lot of people seem to agree with this being a pretty good position right here. That's what it would look like. You would start bending your hand path toward you. You would have a certain look through the ball like that. You wouldn't have this handle drag look. Now, there's a lot of people that think, what in the world are you talking about? All the bad golfers are doing this. Yeah, I used to see those people like, 30 years ago and 20 years ago, and a lot more 10 years ago, but I've been doing this 30 years, and I see lots of better golfers now, and they got the idea from multiple different people. Hey, I was one of them that thought that this handle pushing, handle dragging, or some gosh awful combination of both would be a good idea. It's not a good idea. Now, can you measure this in 3D? Never really considered it. When we are looking at 3D, we're looking at hand path, and you see some good hand paths with good players, and you see some kind of iffy hand paths with good players. But the idea, the concept is that you've got this club in your hand, and you're pulling the club toward you. You're not dragging it across. I like to use the analogy, the Pinata Analogy, but imagine we had sort of a blocking dummy right here, and I went over to the cutoff and got some of my little athletic young friends to grab this stick and said, you see this thing right here, it's going to break at some point. All of y'all just go ahead and take this stick and whack that pinata shaped like a blocking dummy hard as you can. Okay, I'm sure if you videoed them in impact, they'd look pretty good. But what if you Charlie Browned them? I know I've used this analogy before, but not everybody's seen it. You think anybody would look like this? No, they would be trying to put all the force into the stick. Now, they'd line it up for impact, but they would be quickly going. That's why you see in the lead wrist graphs, the left wrist at maximum arched and then starting to go toward extension as the golfer is going normal. Now, these forces and torques, the tangential force and alpha and this beta, tumble and the gamma, the twist, there's whole methodologies out there that omit the idea of what I used to call twist away or just gamma torque. Well, not just gamma torque, but gamma rotation. We know from Enzo, the best players are around 800-900 rotation at the head on the so-called stripper pole axis through the head, and down here like 2400. So people are adding a lot of twisting at the bottom. It was never even talked of. So when we keep hammering a point home, we're trying to get people to understand what is actually happening. But myself, not speaking for any of my friends, compadres, or other Manzella Academy instructors, I'm talking about me. I favor concepts. I favor telling somebody that there's going to be a certain amount of, linear speed and a certain amount of rotation shooting a basketball, as opposed to putting their elbow at a certain angle, and telling them exactly what that angle is, right? If you can tell somebody what they're supposed to do in a global sense, in a concept sense, and then they can do it, you're probably a lot better off. I bet you the learning experts would concur with me that you're probably better off not telling them, micromanage every little move down here. So hopefully some of this terminology that I know I use and some of my friends use will make some more sense now. And you absolutely, folks, aren't going to hurt people, teachers, who thought maybe that was a good idea, telling them to go normal. There's not going to be any harm to that. Every single one of the guys that incorporated that into our teaching, because we wasn't teaching it at some point, shame on us, we didn't know any better, we're better teachers now than they used to be. Hopefully you will be too. Brian Manzella, New Orleans, Louisiana. Go Tigers.